You might have noticed that while I was working on a test case, it was possible for me to send my test case to review. In fact, it's one of the features available in the business subscription, and it allows you to set up a proper peer review process within Case so that any new test cases that have been created or any updates to the existing test cases can be sent to review. Before we actually take a look at the case reviews, let's take a look at the settings and how you can customize the process of review. So the settings in the project allow you to choose what is happening with the case review. First of all, if you're not planning to use review at all, you can simply switch it off. And then that button is not going to be appearing, as well as the case review section is not going to be shown here. Then on the contrary, you can make a review mandatory so that no new cases or no updates to the existing cases will be added to the repository before they are properly reviewed. The third option is self-merge, so you can restrict the person who submitted the review request from actually merging those changes themselves. It will need to be someone else who does that. And the final option here is approvals required. So you can define the number of people who need to give their approval to the changes or a new test case before it can be merged into the repository. So once I put all the settings on, keep in mind that I made my review mandatory. I will need, again, to update the settings. And next up, we're going to go back to my test case and introduce some changes to it. So let's make it a minor change. Maybe we're going to change the severity to critical and priority to high. As you can notice, since I have made my review mandatory, there is no option to save a case whatsoever. I can only send it to review now. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm instantly taken to the case review section where all my currently open review requests are found. But of course, you can change that. First of all, you can use the search box to look up the cases by title, to look up the reviews by title, of course. And then you can apply the filters to maybe look up the cases that have been resolved and have been so added to the repository, or those changes that have been declined over time. You can also go through them at any point. Let's focus on the open ones for now though, and the one I have just created is found over here on the top. I can also see whether it was an update or a new test case, if there were any comments left, and who was the author of this request. And from here, I can also change something about this request or delete it altogether. If I click on the review request, I will be seeing the actual changes that have been happening to this test case. So the change log is found here. Those are basically those things that have been changed about the test case that are not yet in the repository. If we go back to your repository for a second, we're going to see for this test case that the severity is still normal and the priority is going to be at not set. So before I merge those changes, my test case appears in its previous state. From here on, I can actually go ahead and merge those changes, or I can decline those changes. But as you can see, the merge button is not active for me. That is because in the settings, I set up a number of approvals required. So I will need to have at least 3 people approve those changes before they can be merged. I'm going to remove that for now, update the settings one more time, go back to my review, and the merge option is now available to me. I can add those changes into the repository. If somebody takes a look at it and wants to leave me a comment, they can do that in this box, as well as any reviewer can not only merge but decline the changes too. So then if they decline, the test case stays in its previous state in the repository. However, I'm going to merge this change, and looking back into the repository now, I'm going to see that my test case has been updated. It now has critical severity and high priority. Those were the points that were mentioned in the review and that have been changed. So now after the merge happened, my test case is now shown in its new state. So that's about it about the case review. Let's move on and talk about other features of Case.